For all the latest news in North Central Washington, go to ncwlife.com or find us on Facebook. Got a news tip? Email us at news@ncwlife.com or call 888-2020.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure. The Pybus Public Market is pleased to offer a series of unique and fun classes for the Wenatchee Valley community. Classes are taught by local volunteers with an interest and aptitude in the subjects that they teach.
Welcome to the Connected Family for Pybus University. So it was really interesting. I was approached by Pybus University to do a community workshop, and normally I teach social media to businesses. I focus on small businesses, but I do work with marketing teams. I'm working with some of our organizations in the Valley to help them be more resourceful in their industry. So essentially, if you're looking for, in a business perspective, how to use social media marketing for, branding, online voice, monitoring, things like that, that's usually what they come to me for. You'll notice on your handouts, the very last page is actually a little bio about me. It is my daily kind of what I do. I have a great sense of humor. Before I was a social media trainer, I actually worked as an organizing expert, helping people with their clutter. I traveled the world working, and I was the top 3 in the world to work with a true hoarder. I was highly accredited when I retired, and I specialized my business there in helping people with their decision-making skills with their clutter or how they acquire things. So I used to travel all over, and when I retired out, I was part of the opening keynote for the industry, and you had 2 options. You either created a product or you wrote a book. And I knew at that time I would help clients. First thing that we would do, first of 5 things that we would do, is clear off all the dust on the organizing books that they had bought over the years and put them in the Goodwill bin. So writing a book wasn't really in alignment with my ethics. And because I worked with hoarders, I was very familiar with where products break, where they grow mold. One of the talks I used to do about organization is you actually want to go to the organization aisle as your last step in getting organized. Because what happens is when you walk into that organization aisle, the angels come down, and the sense of hope that you're going to be organized was graced upon you. And so a lot of people would acquire the stuff to organize and not really get to the organization piece. So I spent a lot of time helping people. I worked with a lot of adult children on how to cope and deal with their adult or parents, their family members. And towards the end, I was just doing a research project on marketing practices. I spent quite a while with a client where I would come in every Monday, and we would go through, this person would cry and say how much they didn't want to live like this, and yet when I left, we hadn't made much of a dent, and there'd be about 14, 15 packages on the front doorstep from FedEx and UPS from all of the internet shopping they had done from the time I had seen them the week before. So I started researching shopping habits. I read a few books that literally turned me green, made me want to vomit, but it also gave me a really great understanding of marketing practices. And about that time, I was doing a 6-week speaking circuit across the country, and one of the conferences I was speaking at was a mommy blogging conference about mental clutter in a 2.0 world. And best experience, I walk up to register and tell the hotel my name, and I hear this squeal behind me. And I knew nobody at this conference. I'd never dealt with mommy bloggers. And I turned around, I thought maybe she'd been stepped on or something, and she's like, "You're the whole reason I'm at this conference. I can't wait to hear you speak." And naturally, my ego went so big I couldn't make it through my hotel room door. And I was sold. So from then on, I started working with bloggers and PR agencies. And as I said, or maybe I didn't say, Twitter was really starting to become the marketing engine for new media marketing. And so as I got an understanding of shopping habits and what the marketing world was being taught, and then we've got this social media channel that's really taking off, it all was just this really You know, at the time I felt like I was a bit scattered, and here I was in my mid-30s and I felt like I was a flake, and now I look back and go, oh, well, of course, I just bobbed and weaved a little bit and I ended up over in social media, right? But the beauty of it is that when I start working with businesses, a lot of times their process or their structure within their business isn't as solid of a foundation. And so even though we start out working with social media strategy, we end up quickly backing ourselves up and saying, well, what is your time management like? What is your process within, you know, when you do a checkout? Are you asking the question? Are you training your people to ask the question? How did you hear about us? Are you seeing our posts on Instagram? Things like that. So that's a little bit about what I've been up to. I stepped off the plane, as I like to call it, about 5 years ago. My youngest child just graduated from high school last June. I am officially an empty nester-ish. He still lives at home part-time. He's local. He is training to be a third-generation firefighter. And so he got a residency program with Douglas II, and he goes to Wenatchee Valley College. So he bebops between there, his girlfriend's house, and home. Nice little fun fact, and he'll be mortified that I shared this on something that's being recorded for television, but his father has threatened to evict him twice if he does not get the room picked up. So I might be an empty nester by summer, right? A true full-fledged empty nester. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the connected family. So as we walk through this, feel free to ask questions, or you can leave your questions to the end. It's totally up to you. You've got some handouts. I've got some fill in the blanks for you, and then I also give you a full page to take notes. So if you feel like, oh, maybe she'll answer that, you can definitely write your question down and we'll circle back around. How about if I turn the clicker on? There we go. All right, so I only have 2 rules when I do a presentation. The very first one is, there's no such thing as a stupid question. And I bet Carrie could answer what the next one is. Stay curious. Things are constantly changing. All I ask of my students in the social media school is to maintain your curiosity. I promise you won't break Google. You cannot shut down the internet with one simple click. There is almost always a back button that will get you out of wherever you have ventured into. So I wanted to take a poll of who's here. So I don't see any kids, which I wasn't quite sure if, you know, our kiddos were going to be brave enough to come in with their parents or their grandparents. But how about, how many parents do I have in the room? Okay. How about extended family? Okay. Oh, come on. You all have a brother, a sister, a niece, a nephew, right? All right. How about grandparents? And of the grandparents, how many of you have grandchildren that have their own smartphone? How many of you have grandchildren that have smartphones that are nicer than your own phone? Okay. All right. So let's take a little, you know, feeler for what we're dealing with. Are you an Android phone? Okay, how about an iPhone? Okay, how about a flip phone? Perfect. There's always one. And hopefully you don't find it offensive, but we call those the stupid phone, because the rest of them are the smartphone. Although my husband swears if he could still live with a flip phone. As a matter of fact, my 19-year-old wishes he could still live with his flip phone. He says that was the one that was, you could never hurt it, break it. He still has his very first one. It's this little maroon one that, you know, all it did was dial a number, and he loves it. He says, oh, when the apocalypse comes, I'm still going to have my flip phone.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
Is your vehicle in need of a quick oil change or tune-up before hitting the road this summer? Stop by Quick Lube and Tune, the home of the good guys at 610 South Wenatchee Avenue.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
All right, so adults, I have some advice for you. It's very, very important if you intend to stay connected with your millennials and your centennials, and your Gen Zs as well. Show you respect the kiddos' privacy and boundaries by asking permission first. This is a blanket statement, because when you go to make a group conversation on Facebook, you want to ask them, is it okay if I put you in with 50 other people? When you go to have group text messages, The younger kids really do not like to be in those group text messages, especially when someone, maybe they're the flip phone, is texting 7 times no because they're not sure it went through, right? Now for the kiddos, the advice I have for them is to give the adults a chance. They do get frustrated with us adults who didn't come of age with the internet. We didn't come of age with phone lines that were in our pocket or in our purse. And so we have to ask them to be patient with us as we learn these different technologies. So the best smartphone apps for sending videos, I think this was the big promise that I had put out there that a lot of people were like, yes, I can't wait to hear what this is. Now keep in mind, I've given you some icons that you can fill in what they are under there. Now, the reason I asked who the Android and who the iPhone are is because there's only a few that are very specific, but there are some that are what I call agnostic. They'll work both on an iPhone and an Android. I'm sorry they won't work on the flip phone, but you know, what do you do? So the first one is WhatsApp. So has anybody heard of WhatsApp? Okay. So WhatsApp is, if you would imagine text messaging through Wi-Fi, but you can also leave a voicemail, you can record a video, you can send pictures, and you can send pre-recorded videos. It's the nice part about it, and the reason that our family uses it is because when we go to send pictures using text messaging, a lot of times it takes quite a bit longer, especially if the image is large. Forget trying to send a video. It's just too large to do over our data, right? But how I found out about WhatsApp is, does anybody have family that's out of the US? Okay, so I have a friend who about 5 years ago now, 6 years ago, sold everything she owned, got herself a backpack, and decided to travel the world. And she was coaching people. I was her mentor as an organizer. And she was coaching people on organizing and wanted to see what it was like to not have your home rooted in land, but to have your home rooted within yourself. So now she lives in Ecuador, but between point A of selling everything and leaving and point B of living in Ecuador, she had to rely on the internet. Because if she was in Ecuador, if she was in Thailand, no matter where she was always having to change what the cellular plan was. So WhatsApp is really popular with people that have family in international markets, or even with the college students, and there's another one that I found, but the college students up until a couple years ago were using WhatsApp as well. I have all of our family on it because when I'm at home, I can turn off my data and I can just have my phone connected to the Wi-Fi, and we can have text messages and phone calls and things like that without even using our data plan. It's very nice as far as any platform. So you can use it on an iPhone, you can use it on an Android, but you can also log into it on the computer. And there's a couple steps to do it, but what's nice is as I'm working, so yesterday I was finalizing slides. I have a great story about that in a minute. And my daughter is messaging me on WhatsApp, and I have it up on the computer. So I didn't have to stop what I was doing, go grab my phone and see what it was and type it in. I was able to just bring it up, it had the notification, type it right in, and away I go. So for me, someone who spends quite a bit of time on a computer, it's nice to have an ability to log into that. Okay, whoops, how about we go the other way? So how many of you are on Facebook? Okay, so Facebook Messenger, and they have, whenever I teach a Facebook workshop, I always explain to my students that we're in divorce court with Facebook. We're all fighting over custody of our fans as businesses because they like to hold on to that algorithm that is so, secretive. When you download the Facebook app on your phone, there are some permissions that you give, and I'll go over that in a minute. But you cannot, let me remember how this was, you cannot put the Facebook Messenger on without the Facebook app. I'm trying to remember, it was one or the other. They've done a very excellent job of being a bit invasive when it comes to our privacy. However, there are so many people on there, and it's a great way to connect with family members, because if they are not using WhatsApp, and a lot of times you'll get the, oh, I just don't want to download another app, don't make me learn something, don't make me take up the memory on my phone. Facebook, usually they'll put it on their phone, so this is a great way to connect with them. So Facebook Messenger is my secondary common one. Let's see if I can get the right, keep hitting the wrong button, sorry. All right. So for those that are on the Apple ecosystem, the iPhone, you can even do it on the iPad, on a MacBook Pro, it's iMessage, and that's their messaging system, which collects everything, and it collects your messages from Facebook, from your text messaging, from, everywhere. You can sync it all up and have everything in one place, which is really nice. However, I will say I read a couple articles about people there's an Android version of iMessage that people can use. So if you have an Android and the rest of your family has an iPhone, they apparently don't like you very much when you're sending a picture or a video, because it takes forever to get through, and apparently it drains their battery because it's continually trying to load it. So keep that in mind if you're a family that's platform. Instagram. So in case you didn't know, Instagram isn't just for sharing your pictures. It is also for sharing videos now. You can do live videos, just like you can do Facebook Live. But you can also direct message on on Instagram. And so what's really nice is if you see something, and perfect example, I'm learning to quilt. Actually, I'm just learning how to sew a straight line. But I like to say I'm learning to quilt. And my mother-in-law is teaching me, so I've got her on Instagram. And she wasn't really into it, wasn't sure she wanted to do Instagram, till I started showing her all the quilters that were on Instagram, and all their beautiful quilts that they put out, how they show the material that's new. She was sold. So now we're on Instagram, and now I see something that I think is really gorgeous or a great idea. I can send her the Instagram post in a direct message. And now I've got a new place that I'm chatting with her. Okay? So it's just like your Messenger on Facebook. And fun fact, Facebook owns Instagram, but they also own WhatsApp. So they are starting to quietly become quite the monopoly over the way that we talk to each other.
Go over like how when you just said like I could then direct message her something on Instagram. You'll talk about that later.
So the question is if I will show you how to direct message on Instagram, and I don't have any of the slides set up that way, but my plan was that we'd do some hands-on. Okay. So if you'd like to pull your phone out, yeah. I think everybody learns best when they get a chance to do it themselves. So we'll bring it out on your phone and find a post, and then we'll find someone you can bug. Yeah, usually a millennial or a centennial. They're so excited when you figure out how to message them on Instagram.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
Please join us weekly for the 12th District with yours truly, Carrie Condata. Check your channel guide for times or go to ncwlife.com for details.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
All right, so the last one is Snapchat. So for those of you who have the millennials and the centennials, and I'm talking like your college kids, your high school kids, Snapchat has really scared my generation and older because of this whole idea of expiring posts. You send a video, you send a picture. I think the biggest thing is we can't grasp the concept. I'm the kind of person that I feel like, why would I bother taking a picture and spending the time putting that little mask thing on or doing the funny voice and all of that if you're just going to see it for 10 seconds and it disappears? To me, that's hard work. I want my hard work to stick around. But then what's even worse is they have these like direct messaging and they're asking me questions and the messages disappear and I need longer than 10 seconds to recognize what I'm reading, but I also need to go back and reference what we were talking about. My brain just does not work that quickly at my age. So Snapchat is one of those that the kids love it. The scare was, and I think that this is actually very common when it comes to parenting, We have a very good context of what life has out there. And knowing that you can take a picture and it can disappear, we immediately think of, within the context of our life experiences, how that can be abused. The beauty of being young is they don't know those things until we start telling them that that's a danger. And so they don't even think of using the app in a way that is malicious, or, well, I'm going to say most kids don't think of a way of using it in a malicious way, or, you know, a sensual way, I guess is a proper way to say that. So when you are getting the kids that are on Snapchat and you feel like you're a little fearful of it, don't be afraid to ask them, hey, show me what you're posting. The rule that we always had in our house, and like I said, my youngest is 19, so my kids came of age with Facebook. We actually dealt with my younger kid not being old enough to have a Facebook account, and would we allow him to lie about his age so that he could get an account like the rest of his friends. My parenting theory was, I don't advocate you lying in order to do something. However, I'm a smart enough parent and I'm a practiced enough parent that if I tell you no, you're going to go to your friend's house and you're going to create that account anyway. So we made a compromise. Okay, I will let you fib about your age until, and it was only like a year or two, until you're old enough. However, while you live under our roof, when you have a social media account, we will always have the password and the username. I am not interested in prying in your life, but I want you to be aware that at any point, I can and will go in and check on what kind of private messages you have, what you're posting that I can't see. Funny enough, one time I was a little nervous about something that one of my kids was doing, and I did log in, and there was some conversation in there that wasn't quite on the up and up, and I think that I probably nipped it in the bud. Because I said, oh, I happened to notice that you had this conversation with so-and-so and that there's, you know, a little bit of an argument starting. And of course, because we had the expectation that I would be looking, but I wasn't in there every day, it wasn't a surprise. It wasn't an invasion of privacy. It was the agreement that we had made. And we talked about the difficulty. And again, my kids came of age. I think the kids today are probably a bit more savvy about it. But there was this whole idea of having the the screen and the keyboard and not being face-to-face and being able to maybe say some things that were hurtful, but because you weren't saying them out loud, they just didn't seem real. And so I went in, we had the conversation, nipped it in the bud, and, didn't have a problem again. Now, that was a great success story on my part. There are plenty of kids out there today that are having issues with things like that. So if you are a parent or a grandparent, that's advice that I passed down as a veteran parent that came of age with this, where we had to figure out the boundaries. We had to build that and co-create what the expectations were. It's really nice because my 19-year-old is like, I could do without social media. He's not on it all the time. He does the Snapchat, and he turned 18, and I'm over there getting ready to teach a Snapchat class to the social media school. I said, hey, I'm trying to really understand, why are you guys doing this? It doesn't make sense to me. So, can I friend you? Deadpan looked at me and said, no. I'm like, well, how am I going to learn? You're on your own. I was like, wait, but what are you posting that you don't want me to see? He says, it's not that I'm posting anything I don't want you to see. I just don't want my mom on my Snapchat. So, of course, the conversation then went deeper, and I'm like, that's just not okay, and my daughter steps in and says, I'll be your friend, leave him alone, He's not doing anything wrong, we can all see it, it's all good, just he wanted to have some privacy. That's the allure for these kids with Snapchat, is mom and grandma are not there. The other allure that just is beyond my comprehension is doing these pictures and putting them up and making the funny voices. And I've asked him time again, every 3 or 6 months I go through and I'm like, so why Snapchat? And he's like, it's silly. It's stupid. It's just, it's like their way of being brain dead. And I'm like, but you understand that once it's on the internet, it's on the internet. And he's like, yeah, but I'm not doing anything that I would be embarrassed about. It's just a silly picture with a mask that everybody else is doing. So it's been really interesting to learn from him this whole mentality around Snapchat. Now, all of my friends that are on Snapchat is because their children had to have Snapchat. I promise you, half of the users that have made Snapchat successful are the parents who just don't get it. And we're trying to follow our kids around social media and keep them safe. So you can do direct messages in Snapchat. You can do you can snap a copy of the screen, and you can watch their stories, and there's different ways to interact with them. What I have seen is Snapchat's struggling as a company. Once they went public, they had investors that they had to answer to. And so I'm not quite confident enough yet to say that a year or two from now we may not have Snapchat, but I'm getting really close to making a prediction like that. I could be completely wrong. However, it could be coming. They're having a really hard time keeping up, and Facebook, good old Facebook, is doing a great job chasing them. So every time they do something that the user base is really attracted to, Facebook either adds it to messages or to Instagram. And you'll see all of the stuff that says, oh, our teenagers aren't on Facebook anymore, they've all gone to Snapchat, they're all on Instagram. Let me correct that statement. It's all in how you read the information. The kids are no longer posting their life to Facebook. However, they are going on Facebook. They're reading the news. They're checking on what their family members are doing. They have favorite brands or pages that they follow or interests, and they'll reshare that stuff. But they are not the publishers of original content on Facebook. And that's the part that has freaked Facebook out, that they feel like they're losing a user base because they're not engaging from an original standpoint. So your kids and your grandkids are still watching you, even though you don't think they are, just like they think you're not watching them on Snapchat and Instagram. Everybody's watching everybody, so we all gotta behave.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
Get the fastest internet available in North Central Washington by switching to LocalTel and get speeds up to 1,000 meg. Call 888-8888 today or go online to localtel.net.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
So now keep in mind, this is part of that divorce court with Facebook. I want it to be very, 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 very clear what agreement you are making with Facebook when you publish your photos or your videos on Facebook, okay? So, Facebook has a royalty-free worldwide license. You have agreed to this in the user agreement when you have said, yes, I give you permission, fine, let me just get to the chatting with my friends, right? Nobody reads it. Here's what that means. Facebook is free to use your photos pretty much how they'd like anywhere in the world without paying you a penny or asking your permission. So the argument has always been Facebook has copyright over my original photos, over my original videos. Let me just clarify what that means. You have to give them permission, which is licensing, in order for them to publish it on their website. So in order for them to distribute it on the internet, they need to have this permission. I have always said, as long as Zuckerberg is in charge, I truly believe that we are okay. However, the moment that Zuckerberg is no longer in charge of Facebook, the fear that I have, knowing the ins and outs of the terms of service that we've all agreed to, is that the next person could come in and say, that cutie patootie little picture that you put in of your son when he was laying in the bathtub with the little bubbles on his naked butt, it's now on a billboard because you gave us permission when you agreed to the terms of service that we can use it however we want, wherever we want. That's the fear that people that truly understand the terms of service of Facebook have, is if I put it on there, I'm giving them permission to use it for marketing purposes, to use it, you know, you see commercials where they have the people having fun. I mean, generally you hope that there's an ethical side of that, that they do ask permission before they put it out, but they don't have to, okay? So, for me personally, I'm actually struggling a little bit. I just went on a cruise down the Mexican Riviera, and I never put any of my photos or videos on Facebook. I have so many people that knew about it that want to see pictures. And I'm like, ah. So I'm going to make a small photo album of my pictures, but I think I'm going to tell everybody, hey guys, I'm going to put up a few pictures. If you want to see more, let me know. We can sit, you know, I'll show you everything you want to see. But I'm going to take this down in maybe a month. So everybody get all caught up on my story and my fun and all that kind of stuff. But then I'm going to take it off. Now, does that protect me? Not really. It was on there and it's going to be in their archives. However, I'm not just letting it live out there. So hopefully there's other Mexican Riviera pictures that are more exciting than mine, you know, that they go looking for. But please keep this in mind. So if you have family members who say, I don't want my stuff on Facebook, this is probably why. They've heard some version of this. This is the accurate version. There is a much more, you know, who played that game Telephone when they were a kid, right? It starts out as one thing and it ends up something completely different at the other end of the line. So there are several versions of this, but this is the most accurate version. So people who are uncomfortable with their stuff being on Facebook, this is where that comes from. Where you will also see it as a business owner. I do social media school. I'm recording this presentation now for my students to have access to. I don't let that live on Facebook. This is my intellectual property. I'm not about to put it on Facebook and allow them to someday have the right to use it however they want. So that's where you'll see the businesses pull back a bit and be a little bit more conscious about what they're putting out there on Facebook.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
Stay up to date with what's happening in North Central Washington. Go to the NCW Life Community Calendar at ncwlife.com.
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
Yep.
Is that an age thing too? Because I worked with high school youth for a long time, and the more social media famous you are, the more views you get. It doesn't matter if there's money, it's about the fame and the recognition that comes to it. So this would be, it would be an honor for one of them to have a picture put up. Is it an age thing too?
So the question is this an age thing? And she works with high school youth, or has worked with high school youth, and you're referencing the time where the amount of people you have following you gives you that internet fame, which has ebbed and flowed. And so she's wondering, does this have something to do with that as well? And so it depends on what their fame has been. A lot of kids right now are on YouTube and Instagram. Interestingly enough, when Facebook bought Instagram, they tried to push this terms of service, and several of what you would consider your power players there, your Insta-famous kids, jumped ship and said, no, we're not going to use it if you're going to start using our material within that terms of service. So I guess the answer to the question, is this an age thing? They probably think less about what they're putting out there and how it could be used down the road. Again, coming back to that whole, we have this life context. We can see that big picture. We can see what that map looks like. Whereas they're like, oh, I'm just going to throw it up. Who cares? You know. So I'm not sure that it's an age thing. I think it's just do you think about those kind of things? You know, where are you going? What's your intention with how you're putting it out there? And then the kids that are internet famous from the followers and things like that, you know, there's brands that will essentially say, oh, you have all of these people following you. We want a partnership. We'll pay you to drink Coca-Cola or to go to France and show the tourism, you know, and get more kids your age or more people in your demographic coming to France. Those things they're actually on kind of the downhill right now. There's a lot of talk about influence marketing, where they go to people that have a very niche market, so not the big numbers, but people that are having true conversations with their followers, and they're partnering with them because they know that when they talk to those people, there's really a conversation instead of these big, huge audience that maybe they'll get noticed. So does that answer the question? Okay. All right, so why is Instagram the best thing since scrapbooking? Now, another fun fact, before I was an organizing expert, I stayed at home with my kids and I did creative memories. Who remembers creative memories? They're still there, right? Yeah. They've morphed, okay. So I had a presentation I taught several years ago where I had a picture of like a grandma and she's got her photo album and like all the kids are around her and there's one kid in the back and he's got like this going on, you know? And so when I think about Instagram now, we all get to sit at that photo album or that photo book, but we get to do it with our own device, right? So some of the things about Instagram is there's no cost. It's a free app. You can put your stuff up there. There's no need to print photos because now it's in the feed. No more squishing around a photo album to see the pictures and tell the story. You can now put the filter on there. You can share up to 10 pictures in the carousel. That's when you see all the pictures in there. But you can also write the story. You can tell everybody what's going on. You know, oh, we were in Puerto Vallarta. You know, the lady that I met, she had 8 cervezas, and I did my best to keep up with her, but apparently my younger liver is just not up to the task, right? You can find friends with the same interests outside your social circle. So, like I was saying, my mother-in-law and I are looking at the quilting things on Instagram. And so as I'm going through and I'm finding it, well, I'm finding posts from people who are quilters that I don't know. So we have the same interest, and they're doing these great posts. It's like I get to go sit at their kitchen table and look through their photo album. I can see what kind of projects are they working on, what kind of quilts are they putting out there. Sometimes they'll even do giveaways where they'll say, hey, I've got a whole bunch of extra material. Let's like trade what we have. Who needs this? Who needs that? So it's a way to expand the social circle based on your interests using the internet. Kind of scary, but kind of cool. And then you can still have conversations with your friends and family about your experiences. So you put the picture up, you tell the story, and now your friends get to come in and they give you a little heart. Or, you know, when I took the picture of SeaTac as we're pulling out in the plane, I'm like, we're off. Empty, what did I say? Empty nesters. Something, I don't remember what it was. Empty nesters will travel, and then Mexico, here we come, you know. Of course, I had one friend in there, beware Mexico, right, you know. But it was just that fun little bantering back and forth, you know, and they knew what was going on, and they got to see, oh, she's leaving the airport, you know, things like that. So it's this real-time version of what you were doing with scrapbooks, but it's right there, it's in their phone. And if they don't want to hear your stories, if they don't want to look at your scrapbook, they just don't follow you. And if you notice that they're not liking your stuff and they're not commenting, then move on to someone who's interested in you, right?
Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure. Are you wanting high-speed internet but don't have access to PUD fiber? Try Sky-Fi high-speed wireless internet from LocalTel. Call 888-8888 today. Pybus University, where learning is a lifelong adventure.
Now, remember when I said things are constantly changing? Yeah. One thing that I do as a social media trainer is I always go double check my slides the night before my presentations. Luckily, I do this because yesterday I was going to recommend Swipe keyboard for you guys to use. Let me just point out the most important part here. They have discontinued this app. When I went to update my slides yesterday, it had happened 6 hours before I went in to double check my tools. I did a training back east with a group where we were training some dentists, and went to bed. Everything was all set, our screenshots, everything for how to do a Facebook page. Woke up the next morning, Facebook had rolled out an intense change, and every single slide was wrong, because all of our screenshots were based on the day before. Well, actually, they were based on 3 weeks before, but that was when I learned you always check. You even sometimes go in and check the morning of your presentation, which I also did. But luckily, there were other options. So I would like to introduce you to the last icon on your handout there for social media. Gboard, which is not a social media network, but it is a app that can possibly change your life. So Gboard, it's Google Keyboard is what it is, and this is what the icon looks like, and that's why I put it in there. So when you guys go to look for stuff to download on your phone, you can match it up to the image so that you know for sure that you're getting the right one, that it's not something else, and then it's, you know, messes up your phone. So notice this squiggly line. Well, the way that Swipe worked, and they were the pioneer of the industry and the software, is you start your finger on the letter that is the beginning of the word, and then you swipe across each letter that would spell the word. This is like the best magic trick I have to show my husband. He is always amazed when I'm texting or writing a message. So, you know, I start at the T, go down to the H, and back up to the E. And he always looks at it and says, how does it know? I don't know, it just works, right? Now, Gboard can be used both on Android and iPhone. However, the newer Android phones already come with a version of Swipe, so you don't have to download anything. A lot of people don't know that they can swipe on the Android phones until someone shows them or they accidentally do it. The nice benefit of the Google Keyboard, though, is that it has, I don't know if you can see where the squiggle line starts on the left, there's a G, that's the Google logo. If you tap that, you can actually search within Google, within the keyboard. So if you're looking up like a movie time, you can search for it, it'll give you the result, and then you can just hit share. So if you're gonna meet your kids for a movie, and everybody's trying to figure out what time, you can quickly search right there instead of having to go back out, go to Google or whatever app you use for your movie times, and then come back in and hit share. So Google's done a really good job of just putting all of that kind of stuff in one spot. The other thing is on the iPhone, the space bar, and I think it's if you press and hold, it then becomes like your trackpad. So you can actually move around in the letters or put the cursor where you want and things like that. I do have a short-ish reading list based on all of the resources that I have for you guys today. So if you did leave me your email, I will email you access to that, and you guys can come in and see. So there's a tutorial on how to use the Gboard on an iPhone. And it's really great because it's got like, you know, how-to written out, but then it has a little video that'll show you someone's finger like going across it, actually showing you, you know, the way to use it. So Google Keyboard is really great. It works on all platforms, but most people that will seek this out are going to be the iPhone because they don't have the ability to do that. A great little video in that tutorial is they show the difference. So one side is someone tapping out the message, and the other side is the person swiping. And it's like by the time they're on the fourth word, this other person's done with the sentence. So it is really quicker to use it across. It takes a little bit of getting used to, you know, it's kind of weird to be like, oh, where is the H, where is the E, you know, to figure out how you're doing it. But it's just like when we took typing class, right? Our fingers didn't naturally go to the letters that they needed to go to. Is there any questions on what we talked about? A new app called Yellow, as in the color? Snapchat for under 18s. And it's like the color yellow, or is it aloe? Okay.
On Stalkers Bewares, and they said that it's a new app that's coming out with the younger kids. I haven't heard anything else about it.
Okay, so she's saying that there's an app that's coming out. It's dedicated for under 18, and they're concerned about safety with stalkers because it is dedicated to younger kids. We can definitely look it up. I'm curious, obviously. There's always new stuff. It's constantly changing. The other thing I did come across in the research is Facebook has been trying to roll out a Facebook Messenger for kids, and it's getting a lot of pushback. Why would you want something to be dedicated to kids where we do have a lot of people that are willing to be malicious with it? The thing that I realized, there was a company that I had partnered with when my kids were coming of age for Facebook, and it was going to be like a Facebook competitor for kids. And the idea was that nobody under the age of 18 was allowed in, and they had hired retired police officers to monitor the chat rooms and things like that. The parents weren't even allowed in though. And at the end of the day, what didn't work for our family was one of our rules in stranger danger was, I don't want you to talk to someone who doesn't know your parents. And nobody should ever ask you as a child for directions. They should be asking, where's your mom and dad so I can talk to them, right? We just had some stranger danger stuff. Well, the way that the app for the kids worked, and I'm assuming the same thing with the Facebook, is it required my kids to friend people that they didn't know who they were. And they were spread out across the country. And so at the end of the day, it didn't work for our family. However, the owner of the company was an amazing, amazing advocate for internet safety and still does a lot of work around that. But I think that that was the challenge, is that there was all the best intention with it, and yet because of the context of being older, there's that malicious piece. So I would love to find out, what it is that Sage did for their safety part of their app. And also, if you do have your younger kiddos that are in your life that are saying that they want to do the Facebook for Kids app, I would caution whoever is a part of that kid's life, if they're going to give them access to do it, be very vigilant about keeping an eye on it. What kind of messages are going back and forth? Who are they friends with? And then it breaches the question of how young should our kids be when they get on social media? And how do you keep them safe online? So great question. Anybody else? Yeah.
Does the swipe for Android have a different name than swipe?
So does the swipe for Android have a different name than the Gboard, which is the Google keyboard? So on the Android phones, it's already there. You don't have to choose it as a keyboard. Whereas the Google keyboard, you have to actually download it as an app and you have to give it permissions. However, it does offer more things. So the swipe that's naturally on the Android keyboards, you just swipe. The Google keyboard, and their selling point is you now have search and you have voice to text. It's a little better. You can send the GIFs, which is the little short clips of videos that give me a headache, but the kids really love them. I think you can do memes on there now too, which is the cartoony type things going back and forth. So it's got a bit more robust piece to it, and that's their selling point of putting it on the devices. But I thank you guys so much for your time and your attention tonight and coming out in the cold. Yeah, we'll turn the heat back on. If you're interested in any type of social media training or coaching, that's Flirting with Social. A division of Flirting with Social is Social Media School, NCW, and that is the workshops that I do every month. You can either do a one-time pass for a certain topic, or you can become a student of the school with a membership. And then I have previous workshops. I'm almost at my 2-year anniversary, so we've got a really nice library of workshops I've done for businesses in the area. My focus is to take the advice from a national level and break it down to what it means for our valley, so that your marketing is actually working on social media. So again, thank you guys so much for your time, and thanks for coming out.
Have a fun video you'd like to see featured on NCW Life? Email us at newsphotos@ncwlife.com.